private and charter schools, as well as statewide and national nonprofits. Side note, the musicians from Atlanta is one of the themes of our music today. Tyler is also the co-founder of the Forest School and Acton Academy in South Metro Atlanta, co-founder and executive director of the Institute for Self-Directed Learning, and instructor and academic director at the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Education. Tyler has written about the future of learning in the Washington Post, Education Week, Atlanta, Journal Constitution, Getting Smart, and others. Tyler is a parent and lives with his 4 children, all of whom attend the Forest School in Trilla. Welcome, Tyler. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Katija, and hello, everyone. Nice to see you and be with you today. And I am extremely grateful to the both learners, families, parents, and even grandparents who from the Forest School who've joined me for this experience today to explore what parent actions can empower children to become independent learners. And I don't know what your experience of the onset of the pandemic of coronavirus was like, but in Atlanta, at our school, and arguably at our nation, the United States, in almost an instant a year ago, when learning was moved out of school buildings and went home, revealed whether or not students were dependent learners or independent learners. And some learners woke up, set their own goals, opened up their laptops if they had internet connectivity and connected with, or opened up their books if they didn't have internet, and got working, while other learners were waiting on the teachers to tell them what to do. And this graphic here is from a researcher, Dr. Zoretta Hammond, who describes some of the differences in the qualities between the dependent learner and the independent learner. And of course, the assumption that we are working off of for this parental engagement session today is that we really genuinely hope to graduate and to cultivate independent learners who learn to learn and who love learning. And so I'm excited to explore with you what are some of the key moves. My team and I, in trying to create environments and help others create environments that graduate independent learners, have put together a landscape analysis, a report that details recommendations for transforming educational practice as it relates to self-directed learning and how we might create spaces that genuinely, that genuinely cultivate and graduate independent learners. I want to invite you to at some point read that, download it for free. It's open source and it can be found at selfdirect.school. And we invite your feedback. And today I'm going to be sharing some of the research from that report with you, specifically as it relates to parent engagement and what parents can do. The team of folks who put together this report are, some of them are as follows. Christina O'Brien, who's another co-founder of our institute, is on the call with us as well as these other researchers. And our research itself really draws from a lot of great thinking that's already been done in the field around student empowerment. And some of the researchers that our report brings to the forefront include Gloria Ladstone-Billings, Sami Alim, Django Paris, I mentioned Zoretta Hammond, Marianne Wolf, and others. And so again, I invite your feedback. But what I'd love to do for this keynote is to offer up 5 ways that parents and caregivers can empower learners. And again, I want to invite your feedback. And I'm also, for the breakout rooms, we're going to invite you to add, subtract, or make modifications to this list. So we welcome your feedback. But the first, based on research and parent experience, the first way that caregivers can empower learners, I want to suggest, is when parents treasure and value connection over compliance. And our report details how, in many ways, the education systems that our countries have set up are based largely on compliance. And that can be unfortunate and damaging because compliance can undermine authenticity and trust in parent and adult learner relationships by introducing psychological threat and shame into the environment. And this causes our brains to create a stress response. And in this survival mode, learning can actually shut down, and learners can move into a flight or fight response instead of a learning mode. Compliance-driven cultures can also damage executive function skills in children. When adults are viewed as the keepers and the disseminators of knowledge and the creators of the rules, and students instead are passive recipients who must comply by adult standards and adult rules. These environments do not prepare learners to think critically, plan intentionally, and make good choices. And so our report details the importance of being in a relationship and having a social and emotional connection to the student in order to create a safe space for learning. And as a father of four myself, I know it's tempting to want to make sure that my learners are complying, but the connection is actually more valuable. And some practical strategies parents might consider are, providing choices versus demands at home. Also dialoguing with, showing interest in, and encouraging your learner daily. Also modeling learning from failure. Here's a quote from a parent. It calls for a reframing of what it means to support your child along their educational journey. It's a transition from how was your day to what did you choose to do with your day today, where the agency really is with the learner, right? It will require amplifying the voices of our children and decentering our own adult voices. Another mother says, I always try to stay engaged with my student. I'm always asking how things are going, what's new, what are you working on, how's the assignment coming, etc. I know they know I'm always available if they do need help or to just talk through whatever they're working on. So the first way is treasuring connection over compliance. The second way caregivers can empower learners, I would offer up, is to let learners struggle and even fail, and to celebrate the learning that can come from failure. Here's a few more parent quotes. I think allowing your children to fail and learn from those failures is the most important thing you can do to help them. Another parent, as difficult as it is to watch from the sidelines and sometimes see your children fail, it's important to allow them to have freedom within guardrails. Another parent, allow your child to struggle and allow them to take the lead on their future. Back off as a fixer and a doer. And another parent, stop looking for perfection. Instead, take a step back and trust them to make mistakes and follow their instincts. This is necessary to help them build confidence. And our report talks about how without consistent opportunities to make mistakes and embrace failure as learning, learners can actually develop a sense of learned helplessness, this kind of giving up reaction, the quitting response that follows from the belief that whatever you do doesn't matter. So those of you who are school leaders or educators, are we creating an environment where it's safe for learners to fail and to take risks and to learn from that failure? And as parents, are we creating an environment where it's okay to fail and learn from those failures? A third way parents and caregivers can empower learners is to share consistent, constructive feedback with the school. And as parents, I would encourage you to assume the school wants to hear this, especially if you're constructive. One of the things we do at the Forest School is we ask our parents for weekly feedback. We ask, as a parent, how would you rate your child's learning experience this week at the school? And do you have any comments on what can be improved? We send this out every Friday, and every Monday our team looks at it and we respond. If the feedback is helpful, then we incorporate it. We thank the giver of the feedback and we communicate the changes that have been made to the whole community. If a parent is just emotional venting, which sometimes happens, then we ignore it because there's really nothing we can do about it. And lastly, if it's good feedback, but it's not aligned with our school's mission, then we share with the whole community how and why that feedback is not mission aligned, and thus why a change won't be made. And so obviously, as if we're a school leader or if we're an educator or a teacher, it's incumbent upon us to welcome that feedback. And the reason we at the Forest School invite and welcome that feedback is because we know we do not have all the answers, and that together we are building a learning community for our learners, and good ideas come from anywhere. The fourth way a caregiver can empower learners is by lending, requesting, and extending social capital for your child. And social capital, sort of the practical help that emerges from trusting, caring relationships. And there's research that suggests a student's relationship network is among the strongest predictors of educational outcomes. The set of resources that are found in family relations and in a community social organization attributes to a number of educational achievements, including but not limited to much lower dropout rates, improved adaptation pathways, foreign language acquisition, higher grade point averages, and lower levels of misbehavior. There's a beautiful signature learning experience that was created by a school network in the northeastern corner of the United States called Achievement First, called Dream Teams, where learners themselves 3 times a year invite champions in their lives, including their parents, their friends, their teachers, potentially their school leader, potentially a pastor or a rabbi or an imam or a spiritual leader or a mentor or a coach. And 3 times a year, the learners share their goals and their dreams with this team, and they get feedback from this team of champions. And they also get encouragement and accountability and support. And you can imagine parents helping learners, inspiring learners to set up these sorts of experiences for their own learner. Because there's really 3 kinds of social capital that we want to grow, and researchers suggest we want to grow for young people. And that's bonding social capital, where learners have strong and deep relationships with people who are like them. Bridging social capital, which is when they have strong, deep relationships with people who are not like them. And finally, linking social capital, which is when learners have strong, deep relationships with people who are in power, who can get them a job, who can make a reference. And how might we as parents craft for our learners, make these connections, lend our own social capital to our learners, and request social capital from other friends that we may have as parents. Here's a quote from a parent called Luis. Create a support system that rewards out-of-the-box thinking, encourages a team approach to life. Think about the whole system or the big picture when making decisions, regardless of the impact or size of the decision, and continually highlights the value of the approach to the problem, situation, or conflict more than the result. This will help learners create a framework that eventually becomes a mental model that will help them for the rest of their life. And then lastly, identifying learning objectives for your children and pursuing or creating environments that cultivate them. You know, a lot of parents, when they think about schools, they ask the question, is this school a good fit for my child? Will my child thrive there? And the longer I've been in the education field, as many of you are, the less and less I believe that question is helpful. And the more I believe the question should be, what is this learning experience designed to cultivate in learners? If a child is in this experience day after day, what is it doing to them? What is it growing in them? And as a parent, what qualities do I want to be true of my learner when they leave and graduate from our doors? What you see here on the screen is the profile of a graduate of the Forest School. We have a lot of confidence that our signature learning experiences will cultivate these learning objectives for children, learning to be great people, learning to do marketplace skills, learning to learn academics and learning science, and learning to live together. I don't have a lot of confidence that learners will fit into our school, but when learners are in our school, I have a lot of confidence that they're going to get practice at cultivating these learning objectives. And so those are the 5 ways I would offer up as options and opportunities for caregivers to empower learners, particularly so that we might create environments that graduate self-directed, independent learners. And so with that, I want to turn it over to Khatija, who I think is going to explain the breakout room discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tyler. Really interesting. And I think that sets such a great foundation for the next part of the community conversation. So we will head into a 15-minute breakout session to discuss and explore the question that Tyler mentioned. In your experience, what are the most essential parent actions that empower children to become independent learners? We'll also add it in the chat and we'll share it in the breakout room. So don't worry if you forget it through the transition. So please keep introductions short and sweet, as we want to make sure that you're able to explore the question to its fullest. We will be sending updates to let you know where you're at with time, and you will be directed to your breakout rooms in just a moment. So please have a meaningful conversation, and we will meet back here in about 15 minutes. See you soon.